Long-range drone strikes have become essential to everything that Russia does in Ukraine, especially as its ground forces are struggling to take and keep territory. Ukraine knows this. That's why it has hit Russia's main Shahed manufacturing facility in the Republic of Tatarstan, multiple times. Russia is panicking. It can't afford to let that facility go up in flames. And now, it's getting desperate. Ukraine's strikes have forced Russia into building useless towers of despair that will likely not be able to do much to stop the drones from hitting the Tatarstan facility. That facility is the Yelabuga drone production plant, which the new Voice of Ukraine reveals has been infiltrated by agents from the partisan group Atesh. Those agents have been watching everything that goes on at the plant, perhaps feeding information to the Ukrainian military to enable the repeated drone strikes the plant has faced in the past. Now, they have a new revelation. Posting to Telegram, Atesh says that Russia has gotten so desperate with the Yelabuga plant that it is building strange towers equipped with Pantsir S-1 air defense systems to offer more close-range protection. Agents of the ATESH movement employed at the plant in Yelabuga reported the construction of a tower with a Pantsir module near the Shahed 136 kamikaze drone manufacturing plant, the group's Telegram channel declared on August 26th. This is direct confirmation that the Ukrainian drone strikes have already caused serious damage on the plant, and the Russian authorities are in a panic trying to protect their suicide drone factory. That post comes with a couple of pictures and a video that give us more insight into what these towers look like. Frankly, they seem hastily made. The drive-by video shows what appears to be a tower of scaffolding or something similar, with a Panzer system placed on top near one of the entrances to the facility. It seems that the goal is to elevate the Panzer off the ground, perhaps giving it a clearer line of sight that would allow it to shoot down any incoming drones that might otherwise circumvent it if the system were placed on the ground. It's a smart idea, in theory. And the Panzer isn't a bad choice for the specific task of taking out Ukraine's drones, at least on paper. According to Missile Threat, the Panzer S-1, which carries the NATO designation of SA-22 Greyhound, is a self-propelled anti-aircraft gun and missile system, meaning it delivers the best of both worlds for air defense. Its surface-to-air missiles contain 44-pound high-explosive fragmentation warheads, which are powerful enough to take down most aerial targets if they score a direct hit. According to Army Recognition, these missiles have a hit probability of between 70 and 95%, with the exact probability being obscured by Russian misinformation. Army Recognition also notes that the Panzer comes loaded with 12 of these missiles, which can engage incoming aerial threats at a range of about 12.4 miles, subsonic cruise missiles at a range of 7.4 miles, and air-to-ground missiles at a range of 4.3 miles. Drones aren't mentioned in these potential targets. However, the Panzer is supposed to be capable of hitting them. As for the guns, the Panzer has a pair of two A38 M30mm automatic guns that are derivatives of Russia's GS-30 gun. If a target manages to evade the Panzer's missiles, those guns are supposed to shred through the target at a maximum range of about 2.5 miles. This double-barreled offensive design means that the Panzer can engage targets at medium and close range, which is ideal for use inside Russia against drones that have already penetrated the air defenses Russia has set up inside Ukraine and on the border regions. Portability is meant to be one of the Panzer's most important features, as it can be mounted onto the back of a 10-ton truck and driven to whatever location it's needed. However, this is one feature that the Yelabuga drone production plant isn't going to be using. Its Panzer air defense systems are mounted on static towers in a clear sign of Russia's desperation. After all, a moving Panzer is a difficult target to hit. A static one, not so much, but we'll get back to that point later in the video. What's important to recognize is that Russia is installing its new Panzer towers of despair because it needs a way to stop Ukraine's drones. Key to that capability lies in the air defense system's radar architecture, which Army Recognition says incorporates an S-band target acquisition radar that's able to detect 36 targets simultaneously. Again, that seems to make the Panzer the ideal choice for dealing with drone hordes. The Pantsir also has a separate dual-band fire control radar, which operates on the Ka-band and E-band to improve the tracking and guidance of up to 4 of the system's missiles against 4 targets at the same time. This dual radar configuration enables robust performance against low RCS threats, such as drones and munitions operating at low altitudes and high speeds, Army recognition adds. So, Russia seems to have picked the ideal weapon to counter Ukraine's long-range drones. But will it actually work? We'll answer that question a little later in the video. First, we need to explain why Russia has taken the desperate move of building a bunch of makeshift towers onto which it's placing an air defense system that is meant to be among the most mobile it has in its arsenal. The reason is simple. Ukraine keeps on hitting the Yelabuga drone production facility. In 2025 alone, Ukraine has conducted several successful strikes against the factory, with each throwing a massive wrench into the works of Russia's Shahed drone production capabilities. These attacks started in earnest in April. On April 23rd, United 24 media reported that Ukraine had used a then-new long-range drone to fly the 930 miles or so into Tatarstan to score a direct hit on the Yelabuga Special Economic Zone. Powerful explosions were recorded at the Shahed production facility in a strike that almost served as a proof of concept for Ukraine. It showed itself that its drones could reach one of Russia's most important military facilities. The floodgates were officially opened. Just 3 days later, Ukraine followed up with another attack in which its drones scored a direct hit. Then, on May 26th, Ukrainian drones struck Tatarstan yet again. United 24 says that residents of the city described a night filled with heavy air defense activity that also forced the nearby Nizhnekamsk airport to temporarily close down. Ukraine was far from done with this initial trio of strikes. By now, it was clear that safe aerial corridors had been carved deep enough into Russia for Ukraine's drones to travel the hundreds of miles needed to reach Yelabuga, and Ukraine was more than happy to take advantage. On June 15th, the Kyiv Independent launched yet more drones at Tatarstan, with this strike supposedly resulting in several casualties. The region's governor, Rustam Minikanov, claimed that Ukraine had killed 1 and injured 13 with its drone attack, though this wasn't confirmed by any sources outside of Russia. For the Yelabuga plant, Russia said that it shot down all of the drones targeting it. However, debris from those drones fell to the ground, sparking fires in Yelabuga. We've heard this drone debris excuse plenty of times before. Almost without fail, it serves as code for Ukraine scored a direct hit on one of Russia's military facilities. Around 2 months later, Ukraine was at it again. August 9th saw the Kyiv Independent report that the Ukrainian Secret Service, or SBU, has carried out a strike against a Shahed storage facility in Tatarstan, taking out both completed drones and components used to build Shaheds in the process. The Security Service of Ukraine continues its systematic efforts to demilitarize Russian military facilities deep inside enemy territory. Storage sites for Shahed drones, which the enemy uses to terrorize Ukraine every night, are among our legitimate military targets, the SBU said in a statement. Yelabuga has become more than a simple military target. Ukraine is determined to take the facility offline for good, with 5 strikes in as many months, making it clear where the country's intentions lie. By this point, Yelabuga is almost like a punch-drunk boxer, only being propped up by the ropes behind them. Ukraine is delivering shot after shot, with all of its drones striking their targets, and the facility's air defenses utterly failing to do anything about it. Hence, the towers of despair and their Pantsir air defense systems. Still, these towers seem like a long way to go to protect one manufacturing facility out of the dozens, perhaps even hundreds, stationed around Russia. But Yelabuga is no ordinary facility. It has become one of the most important military targets inside Russia because it produces more Shahed drones than any other facility in the country. The New Voice of Ukraine reported that 2024 provided hints about the increasing importance of Yelabuga. Between January and September of that year, the plant that Ukraine has targeted with so many of its drone strikes built 5,700 Shahed drones, which was around double the number that it built in the same period of 2023. Yelabuga has only been growing since then. In July, Russia grew so proud of what it was achieving at Yelabuga that it actually lifted the lid on the factory in a TV show in which it showcased ongoing and new construction at the factory. CNN says that this show, combined with satellite imagery of the Yelabuga site, shows that construction is ongoing at a rapid pace. Dozens of buildings have cropped up, some of which are production facilities, while others serve as dormitories for employees. And to fuel this constant growth, Russia has embarked on a campaign to hire as many youngsters as it can to work on its Shahed production lines. This is believed to be Russia's main attack drone factory, a key part of the Kremlin's escalating drone offensive on Ukrainian cities. To fuel this effort, there's also now evidence that the site is drafting teenagers, not only into drone assembly at Alabuga, but also into construction work, CNN said back in July. The same outlet says that the Institute for Science and International Security believes the scale of construction is so large that Yelabuga's buildings could soon accommodate up to 40,000 workers. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that more workers result in thousands more Shahed drones rolling off the production lines. These drones have become key to Russia's military strategy against Ukraine. Created by Iran, the Shahed 136 is capable of traveling at speeds of up to 115 miles per hour while carrying a 90-pound explosive warhead, Business Insider says. Though slower and less lethal than cruise missiles, their low cost allows Russia to launch them in bulk to wreak havoc on Ukraine's cities. And that's precisely what Russia has been doing through much of 2025. Over the last few months, Russia's drone strikes have intensified to the point where it is regularly breaking records. For instance, July saw Russia hit Ukraine with 6,297 long-range drones, 6,129 of which were Shahed types. That includes standard Shahed and decoy variants of the drone designed to confuse Ukraine's air defenses. This volume of strikes amounted to the highest monthly total since the Ukraine war started, and the contrast between 2024 and 2025 is stark. In July 2024, Russia launched 423 drones at Ukraine, meaning the passage of a single year has seen it increase its intensity almost 15 times over. August hasn't seen much of a slowdown. Though we don't have a total figure for the month yet, Russia is still firing hundreds of drones into Ukraine. August 21st saw it launch 574 drones along with 40 missiles at Ukraine in what the BBC calls one of the heaviest bombardments in weeks. Russia needs its Shaheds. Now that it's able to build them domestically, rather than relying on Iran to provide the drones, it's ramping up production with the goal of filling Ukraine's skies with as many of these terrifying drones as it can. Shaheds aren't designed to capture territory. That's not their purpose. Russia needs them to inflict as much terror as it can on Ukraine's civilian population. Vladimir Putin wants to send the message that Ukraine's brave soldiers can't do anything to protect their people from Russia's Shahed strikes. But for that, he needs a drone manufacturing facility capable of producing the thousands of drones that Russia needs to sustain its aerial assaults, a facility like Yelabuga. Which brings us right back to Russia's towers and Ukraine's repeated strikes against Yelabuga. Just as Atesh says, Russia is panicking right now. It's seen the impact that Ukraine's drones can make, and it has realized that the vital Yelabuga plant simply didn't have the air defenses that it needed to combat the drones that Ukraine just won't stop sending. That situation couldn't go on. If Ukraine were able to do enough damage to seriously slow down Shahed production, that would stop Russia's new drone-heavy strategy in its tracks. So, we come back to the question we posed earlier in the video. Will the Towers of Despair work? Atesh certainly doesn't seem to think so. In its Telegram statement, it says, "But the truth is that no improvised towers or panzers can save the plant from new attacks. Everyday production is under threat, and with it, the entire logistics chain for the drones that Moscow uses to terrorize the civilian population of Ukraine." The group wraps up with a warning. The Kremlin can build new towers and cover its plants with panzers, but this will not save them from retaliation. The enemy must know. For every Shahed launched, a fair blow will come. Of course, this can come off as posturing by a group that is heavily pro-Ukraine and is happy to mock the Pantsir towers that Russia has come up with. Still, there may be an element of truth in what Atesh is saying. The Pantsir is supposed to be one of the best weapons that Russia has for shooting Ukraine's drones out of the sky, at least on paper. However, there have been multiple instances where this specific air defense system has fallen victim to the very drones that it's supposed to take out. In March, Defense Express reported that Ukraine had managed to destroy 4 Pantsir S-1 air defense units using its Darts 429 loitering munitions drones. It appears that the drones were able to sneak up on the Russian defenses, evading their radars to score direct hits. Something similar happened on June 15th when United 24 reported that Ukraine's main intelligence directorate had managed to take out a Pantsir S-1, the occupied Zaporizhzhia region. In that instance, there's a video of the Pantsir rattling off a missile, which misses its target before firing its 30mm cannons. They also miss. The Pantsir goes up in smoke. Just 13 days later, Euromaidan Press also reported on a Ukrainian strike against Crimea, in which it took out yet another Pantsir, along with a trio of Russian helicopters. The caveat to these 3 strikes is that the unmanned aerial vehicles Ukraine used in these strikes all seem to have been first-person view or loitering munitions drones, which are small enough to go undetected and nimble enough to evade fire. These aren't the types of drones that Ukraine would be firing into Yelabuga. Long-range drones are closer to cruise missiles in shape and speed than FPV drones, which means they should be picked up by a Pantsir. Still, the fact remains. The weapon Russia is relying on to take out Ukraine's incoming drones has been destroyed many times over by drones. The Pantsir is vulnerable, and when it's mounted on top of a tower, that air defense system could end up being a sitting duck for Ukraine. There are also questions to be asked about how accurate the Pantsir really is. We mentioned earlier that its missiles may have a successful kill rate as low as 70%, and that hasn't really been confirmed. The June 15th strike we just mentioned also offered an example of a Pantsir detecting an incoming target and utterly failing to take it out with both missiles and cannons. That's not the only example. In August, Ukraine launched an attack against Crimea that saw it take out an S-500 radar station and a BK-16 landing craft. That alone is remarkable. But what should be far more worrying for Russia is that the Pantsir system it had in place to prevent this type of attack utterly failed to do its job. Footage from the strike, seemingly recorded by one of Ukraine's drones, shows a Pantsir system firing 5 missiles at the incoming drone. All 5 shots missed, which casts serious questions on the 70% success rate of these missiles. Never mind the supposed 95% rate that Army recognition notes. Again, the types of drones the Pantsir missed on both of these occasions are different from the drones that Ukraine has been using to attack Yelabuga. Still, these incidents can't go unnoticed by Russia. It knows that its Pantsir air defense systems have not only failed to stop Ukraine's drones, but have been destroyed by them many times in the past. While it's not accurate to say the Pantsir can't hit anything, one of these systems propped up on a makeshift tower doesn't seem like the way to go to protect a drone production factory that Ukraine has hit at least 5 times and will be targeting again in the future. But Russia is desperate. Everything it has tried before has failed. Plus, the rapid growth of the Yelabuga facility comes with an obvious downside. It makes the facility an even bigger target. All Ukraine has to do is take out the new Pantsir towers, or circumvent them by hitting parts of the facility that aren't properly covered by the towers, and Yelabuga will be as vulnerable as it has always been. Some might even argue that Yelabuga shouldn't be a priority for Russia right now. While it's building hastily constructed towers to protect that facility, Ukraine is conducting more deep strikes against Russia's oil and gas pipelines that could put an end to the Ukraine war. Ukraine just destroyed Russia's war piggy bank with 2 of these strikes. Learn more in our video and remember to subscribe to the Military Show for more coverage of the latest and most desperate lengths that Russia is going to as it tries to stop Ukraine's long-range drones.